The entire family of the Grand Secretary was sentenced to be beheaded, and I knelt in the first row, a cold blade pressed against the back of my neck, the stench of death closing in. Crows cawed incessantly overhead, their shrill caw-caw a vexing racket, as if bidding farewell to the over 100 loyal souls of our clan. My father, Shun Ce, the Protector General, had been a loyal and upright man all his life, yet he had ended up charged with merit too great to serve the sovereign. Plotting rebellion, ridiculous. I closed my eyes, waiting for the sweet release of death. At that moment, the annoying cawing of the crows in my head suddenly translated itself into clear human speech. Fools, a bunch of idiots, still playing the loyal ministers here. The Crown Prince is a star of solitary misfortune, dooming his father, mother, and the entire realm. The old emperor will be cursed to death by him tonight and pass away. Rebel quickly, if you don't rebel now. Are you waiting to form a group in the underworld? I snapped my eyes open. My father was a god of war. I was a prisoner. The midday sun at the third watch blazed like a cauldron of fire, scorching every member of the Shun family. Around us, common folk whispered, and the execution supervisor urged impatiently. The hour has come, execute. A cold token clattered to the ground, its crisp ring like the sound of my fate shattering. I could feel the executioner behind me raise his blade. The wind it stirred cutting across my neck and raising a rash of goosebumps. My family, my parents, my elder brother all had their eyes closed, their faces set with the resolve to meet death unflinchingly. No, we cannot die like this. To die so wronged. The crow in my head was still spamming madly. Oh my God. I'm dying of anxiety. The old emperor is rolling on the ground with a crushing chest pain right now. Even the imperial physicians are helpless. If he dies, that will of his will most certainly be altered by that useless crown prince. Then your Shun family will never rise again. That little girl down there, yes, the one in pink, move a muscle. Will you? I was that little girl in pink. Was it speaking to me? There was no time to ponder. The instinct to survive overwhelmed all else. In the split second before the guillotine fell, I summoned every ounce of strength in my body and screamed at the top of my lungs, "Stay your blade." My shrill cry cut through the deathly silence hanging over the execution ground. The executioner's blade froze in mid-air, and everyone stared at me in stunned disbelief. The execution supervisor, Zhongde, the Minister of Revenue and a loyalist of the Crown Prince, frowned and shouted in rebuke. "Remnant of the Shun clan, what trick are you trying to play at the gates of death?" My father also turned to look at me, his eyes filled with shock and confusion. "Wani, stop your nonsense. Even in death, the Shun family must die with dignity." I ignored them, only kowtowing desperately toward the imperial palace, my forehead slamming against the rough flagstones until blood gushed forth in an instant. I, common woman Shunwani, have an auspicious omen to report. It concerns the fate of the nation, concerns His Majesty's longevity. I beg His Majesty to postpone the execution and hear me out. An auspicious omen. Everyone froze. What auspicious omen could the daughter of a convicted traitor, condemned to be beheaded with her entire clan, possibly have? Zhongde let out a sneer. Utter nonsense. Men, execute them at once. Do not delay the auspicious hour. Wait a moment. A high-pitched voice came from the distance. It was Wang Fuhai, the chief eunuch at the emperor's side. He hurried over with a detachment of imperial guards, unfurling a roll of bright yellow imperial edict, by His Majesty's oral order. The entire Shun clan is to be temporarily detained in the imperial prison, pending further judgment. Zhongde's face turned green in an instant. Eunuch Wang, this is against all rules. Wang Fuhai gave him a cold smile that did not reach his eyes. Is Minister Zhong questioning His Majesty's decision? Zhongde trembled in fear and knelt hastily. Your humble servant dares not. And just like that, the over 100 members of the Shun clan, having danced with death at the gates of the netherworld, were all escorted back to that living hell, the imperial prison. 2. The imperial prison was dark and damp, the air thick with the stench of blood and rot. My family and I were locked in the deepest cell. Father, mother, and elder brother all fell silent. The atmosphere heavy and suffocating. Finally, my father could bear it no longer and spoke, his voice filled with exhaustion and disappointment. Wani, what on earth are you thinking? Clinging to life with such a ridiculous excuse will only bring greater shame to the Shen family. My elder brother Shenxiu also said, yes, sister, there are no cowards in the Shen family. Father has lived a life of honor and integrity, we cannot sully his name. I looked at them, my nose stinging, tears threatening to spill. Of course I knew dignity was important, but living was more so. Father, brother, believe me, I lowered my voice, my eyes burning with unwavering resolve, we will not die. The injustice done to the Shen family will surely be vindicated. They stared at me, their gazes complex, and in the end, only sighed and fell silent. I knew they did not believe me. It did not matter, soon enough, they would, for the crow overhead had followed us all the way to the skies above the imperial prison, and its voice rang out in my head once more. This girl has got guts, impressive, but the old emperor is extremely suspicious, he'll probably send someone to interrogate you at once. You need to think of what to say, with me as your ears to the wind, you'll pass with flying colors. Sure enough, it was not long before Wang Fuhai arrived in person. He did not enter the cell, only stood outside the iron bars, looking down at me. Miss Shen, by His Majesty's order, I have come to ask, what exactly is this auspicious omen of yours? I lifted my head and met his gaze directly. Eunuch Wang, an auspicious omen cannot be spoken lightly. I demand an audience with His Majesty. To speak of it to him in person, Wang Fuhai let out a cold laugh. What right do you, a condemned female prisoner, have to an audience with the Son of Heaven? I advise you to speak plainly, otherwise, none of these over 100 lives will be spared for your sake. I knew he was bluffing. I spoke calmly. There is no need to frighten me, eunuch. If I cannot explain myself, I shall naturally be guilty of deceiving the emperor, adding another crime to my name. But if what I say is true, it shall be an auspicious omen descended from heaven, a meritorious deed for the nation. His Majesty is a wise ruler, he will not deny me this small chance. I paused, looked into his eyes, and spoke each word clearly. Furthermore, the auspicious omen I speak of concerns the health of His Majesty's dragon body. If it is delayed because of your obstruction, can you bear the responsibility? Wang Fuhai's face changed. The 4 words dragon body's health had struck his weak spot precisely. He stared at me fiercely, as if trying to spot a flaw in my expression. I met his gaze unflinchingly, while screaming madly at the crow in my heart. Hey, brother crow, tell me quickly, what exactly is wrong with the emperor? Besides the chest pain, are there any other symptoms? The crow seemed to freeze for a moment. Then cawed excitedly, whoa, you can take the initiative to talk to me now, awesome. Let me tell you, the old emperor has more than just a chest pain. Yesterday afternoon in the imperial study, he smashed his favorite green jade brush washer from the previous dynasty and has been hiding it from everyone. Also, his left big toe has been throbbing non-stop for the past 2 days. He thinks it's gout, but it's actually a sign of poisoning. The crown princess sent pastries a few days ago laced with a trace of Qianji yin. My heart jolted violently. The crown princess, it was the crown prince's faction who had poisoned him. What a devious move to cut the foundation from under him. Wang Fuhai saw that I had fallen silent for a long time and grew impatient. Well, can't make it up anymore. I snapped back to my senses and smiled faintly. Eunuch, go back and tell His Majesty this. Say that the green jade brush washer smashed in the imperial study was a ward against disaster. But the disaster is not over. The root of the misfortune lies in the left toe. If it is not eradicated at once, at the hour of the rat tonight, the dragon shall ascend to heaven, and even immortals cannot save him. Having spoken these words, I closed my mouth and said no more. Wang Fuhai's pupils contracted sharply, all the blood draining from his face. The incident with the brush washer was top secret. Besides him and a few confidants, no one else knew a thing, and the emperor's throbbing toe, only his personal imperial physicians and himself were aware of it. How did this little girl know? Wang Fuhai's gaze toward me shifted from scrutiny to terror. He did not say a word, turned, and ran, his steps unsteady, as if he had seen a ghost. I knew my first move had been a success. 3. Deathly silence fell over the cell. My father and elder brother stared at me as if I were a monster. Wani, you, my father's voice trembled, What you just said, was it true? I nodded. It was true. How could you possibly know? My elder brother pressed. I could not tell them I could understand the crow's speech, so I spoke vaguely. I had a dream a few days ago. An old immortal with a white beard told me all this in the dream. It was a terrible explanation, but for the moment, it was the only one I had. Father and brother exchanged a glance, and shock and a glimmer of hope crossed both their faces. The next few hours were an agony of waiting. We all waited for a verdict from the imperial palace, life or death. It all hinged on this night. The sky gradually darkened, and the prison guards brought simple meals. None of us could eat a bite. Suddenly, a flurry of hurried footsteps sounded outside the cell. This time, it was the imperial guards who came. The leading general held an imperial edict in his hand and opened it with a solemn expression. By His Majesty's edict, the convicted traitor's daughter Shanwani is summoned to the palace at once for an audience with the Son of Heaven. Father and elder brother's bodies stiffened simultaneously. I, however, let out a breath of relief. As long as the Emperor was still willing to see me, it meant there was still a chance to turn things around. Father, mother, brother, rest assured. I will save you all. I turned back and gave them a reassuring smile. Mother took my hand, her eyes brimming with tears. Wani, my child, be careful in everything. I nodded firmly and followed the imperial guards out of the imperial prison. The night wind was cold, whipping my thin prisoner's robes about my body. I looked up and sure enough, the crow was still circling in the sky. Girl, you're finally out. The palace is in complete chaos. The old emperor heard what Wang Fuhai said and ordered the imperial physicians to examine him. They really found the trace of Chen Jiyin. He's absolutely furious right now. The crown prince and crown princess are kneeling outside the palace hall, looking as if their parents have died. A cold laugh rose in my heart. They would soon truly lose their parents. But watch your back. The crown prince will be driven to desperation and will definitely send someone to kill you on the way. I've told my little brothers to follow you. I'll notify you at once if there's any trouble. Warmth stirred in my heart, and I whispered a silent thank you. The imperial palace blazed with countless lanterns, yet an unusual chill of slaughter hung in the air. I was led to the outside of the Qianqing Palace, where Wang Fuhai paced anxiously at the gate. At the sight of me, he looked as if he had seen a lifesaver. Miss Shen, you've finally arrived. Hurry. His Majesty has been waiting for you for a long time. I was just about to step forward when the crow's shrill cry exploded in my mind. Watch out. There's an archer behind the second palace lantern on the right. He's the crown prince's man. My body dropped down almost instinctively. Whoosh! A sharp arrow whizzed past the top of my head, embedding itself deeply in the corridor pillar behind me, its feathers still humming with vibration. Everyone froze in shock. Wang Fuhai screamed in terror. Assassins! Protect His Majesty! Hurry! Protect His Majesty! The imperial guards reacted in an instant, drawing their blades to shield me, while others pounced toward the palace lantern. Soon, a black-cloaked man was subdued and dragged over. Knowing his mission had failed, the black-cloaked man clenched his teeth fiercely, black blood spilling from his lips as he died on the spot. A dead man. Wang Fuhai's face turned ashen. He looked from the dead man to me. His eyes filled with even greater terror. My instinctive dodge just now had been too fast, too precise. No ordinary boudoir lady could have reacted like that. I kept my face impassive, staring coldly at the corpse, my heart filled with lingering fear. If it hadn't been for the crow's warning, I would have been a corpse by now. Crown Prince, what a cruel heart you have. Wang Fuhai stammered. Miss Eschen, are you all right? I shook my head and straightened up. I'm fine. It seems someone does not wish for me to see His Majesty. The words were loaded with meaning, and Wang Fuhai, being a shrewd man, understood them perfectly. He wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and made a gesture of invitation to me, his attitude 100 times more respectful than before. Miss Shen, His Majesty is inside, please. 4. Stepping into the Qianqing Palace, a thick stench of medicinal herbs assailed my nostrils. On the dragon bed lay the Son of Heaven of the Great Jew. The man who had once been high-spirited and held the power of life and death in his hands. Now his face was ashen, his lips purple, and he gasped weakly for breath. A row of imperial physicians knelt by the dragon bed, all as silent as cicadas in winter. The crown prince and crown princess also knelt not far away. The crown prince's face was livid, while the crown princess wept piteously. Seeing me enter, the emperor struggled to lift his hand, his voice hoarse like a broken gong. You are Yu Shenxi's daughter. I knelt and bowed. Convicted woman Shenwani, pays homage to your majesty. Raise your head. I did as I was told. The emperor's murky eyes stared fixedly at me, as if trying to see straight through me. Your words at the execution ground, the assassination at the palace gate. What exactly do you know? I did not answer directly, but instead asked a question. Your Majesty, do you believe in the will of heaven? The emperor froze. I continued. Heavens will send a warning. The purple star fades, and treacherous villains plot to harm their sovereign and seize the country. If I had not chanced to glimpse a thread of heaven's secret, your Majesty would be in mortal danger, and the rivers and mountains of the great Jew would topple. These words were utterly audacious, yet they struck like a clap of thunder. Deathly silence fell over the hall. The crown prince suddenly raised his head and shouted sharply, "Brazen sorceress! How dare you spread heresy before father? Father, your son believes she is a spy sent by the Shen family, deliberately spreading alarmist talk to stir up chaos in the court. I beg father to order her dragged out and beheaded." The emperor ignored him, only staring at me and gasping. You speak of treacherous villains. Who are they? My gaze slowly shifted to the crown prince, and to the sniveling crown princess. Does not your Majesty already have the answer in your heart? Nonsense. The crown princess screamed, Your Majesty, see clearly, your concubine is loyal to you, with no other intentions. This sorceress is slandering us. The emperor's eyes turned cold and sharp, his gaze pinning the crown prince in place. What do you have to say about the Qianji Yin? The crown prince's body trembled violently, sweat pouring down his face. Father, your son is wronged. Your son knows nothing of this matter, knows nothing. I let out a cold laugh and spoke. Your Highness, the crown prince truly has a short memory for one of such noble status. 5 days ago, at the Jubao studio on West Street, you personally selected an exquisite Hetian jade pendant for your father-in-law, the state uncle Zhongde, and the Qianji Yin poison was brought from the western regions, passing through the state uncle's hands before finally being placed in the pastries the crown princess sent to your Majesty. Do you truly know nothing of these connections? My words struck the crown prince like a heavy hammer to the heart. His visit to Jubao studio had been extremely secret. How did she know? He stared at me fiercely, his eyes filled with terror and murderous intent. You, who exactly are you? How did I know? Naturally, the crow told me. The magpie's nest in the old pagoda tree outside Jubao studio saw everything clearly. The crown prince and that fat slob Zhongde were huddled in the shop, secretly handing over a small porcelain vial. I did not answer the crown prince's questioning, only looking at the emperor. Your Majesty, the witnesses and evidence are all there for the taking. The remaining poison should still be found in the state uncle's mansion at this very moment. The emperor's chest heaved violently. He pointed at the crown prince, too enraged to speak. You unfilial, rebel, phut. A mouthful of black blood spurted from the emperor's mouth. Your Majesty, Wang Fuhai shrieked. The imperial physicians descended into chaos. Outside the hall, the thunderous roar of battle cries suddenly rang out. The crown prince's face changed, then twisted into a ferocious smile. He stood up, looking down at us as if we were all dead men. Father, you are old, it is time for you to rest. From now on, the rivers and mountains of the great Jew shall be handed over to your son. He had torn off all pretense. Right there and then, Wang Fuhai pointed at him, trembling with rage. Crown Prince, do you dare to rebel? The crown prince laughed loudly. Rebel? No, eunuch Wang. This is called following the will of heaven. Men, seize them. The hall doors were slammed open, and a group of heavily armored soldiers charged in, led by the vice commander of the imperial guards, Zhong Yong, the crown prince's brother-in-law. They quickly took control of the entire hall, their blades pointed at us. It was over. Despair filled every heart. The emperor trembled all over with anger. Pointing at the crown prince, yet unable to utter a single complete sentence, my heart turned to ice as well. I had calculated everything, yet never imagined the crown prince would be so insane as to stage a coup right in the imperial palace. Don't be afraid, girl, the crow's voice rang out again. I've called all your father's old subordinates. General Li of the capital camp is leading 30,000 troops to the imperial palace, and I've found someone even more useful. Someone even more useful, who? 5. Your Highness the Crown Prince, what great authority you wield. A clear, slightly lazy voice drifted in from outside the hall. Everyone turned to look, and saw a young man in a moon-white brocade robe walking slowly in. He had a handsome face and a gentle temperament, a faint, ambiguous smile playing on his lips, but in his deep eyes lay an icy coldness. At the sight of him, the Crown Prince's face paled drastically, as if he had seen a ghost. 7th brother. How dare you come here? Weren't you confined to your mansion by father? The man who had arrived was none other than the 7th prince, Xiao Jingyan, abandoned by the emperor for years, a prince with no presence at all. Xiao Jingyan did not answer him, only walking straight to the dragon bed and kneeling before the emperor, his voice filled with grief. Your son has come late to save your majesty. I beg your majesty's forgiveness. The emperor looked at him. A complex light flashing in his murky eyes, the crown prince regained his senses and shouted sharply, Xiao Jingyan, how dare you escape your mansion without permission and break into the imperial palace? Men, seize him. Yet the soldiers stood motionless. A look of unease and doubt crossed Zhongyang's face as well. Xiao Jingyan slowly stood up, taking a golden plaque from his arms and holding it high. Whoever sees this plaque shall obey it as if the emperor himself were present. It was the death pardon plaque bestowed by the late emperor. Whoever held it could mobilize the 3 great camps of the capital. The crown prince and Zhongyang's faces turned deathly pale. Impossible. Father reclaimed this plaque long ago. The crown prince cried out in disbelief. Is that so? Xiao Jingyan smiled faintly. 2nd brother probably does not know that the plaque father reclaimed was a fake. The real one has always been with me. He glanced around, his gaze falling on the imperial guards, his voice turning sharp in an instant. You are the imperial guards, bound by duty to protect your sovereign and defend the imperial city. Yet now you aid the Avilders and plot rebellion. Do you wish for your 9 clans to be exterminated? His words rang out like a hammer on an anvil. The soldiers exchanged glances, all seeing fear in each other's eyes. Zhongyang shouted bluffly, do not listen to him, he has only a single plaque, and we have men. Charge. Kill him, and everyone shall be rewarded. Yet no sooner had his words fallen than the thunderous roar of battle cries rang out outside the hall once more. A heavily armored general strode in, followed by a troop of fierce, murderous elite soldiers. He knelt on one knee before Xiao Jingyan, his voice like a bell. Your humble general Li Guang pays homage to the 7th Highness. 30,000 soldiers of the capital camp have surrounded the imperial palace. We await your command, Li Guang. He was my father's most capable deputy. After my father's downfall, he had been given a nominal promotion and a real demotion. Transferred to the capital camp and far from the center of power, I never imagined he was the 7th prince's man. No, that was not right. The crow's words suddenly flashed through my mind. I've called all your father's old subordinates. It was the crow. The crow had notified General Li. I looked at Xiao Jingyan, and he seemed to sense my gaze. Glancing in my direction, his eyes held a faint, imperceptible approval and gratitude. I understood in an instant, it was him. That someone even more useful was the 7th prince, Xiao Jingyan. In the imperial prison, I had sent rats to deliver a message, not specifying a recipient, only telling them to find a prince who could stand against the crown prince and harbors the world in his heart. I never imagined they would find the confined 7th prince. I had always thought him a forgotten, powerless nobody, never realizing he was the one who had hidden his claws the deepest. To play the pig to eat the tiger, this was the mark of a true master. 6. The tide of the battle turned in an instant. The crown prince's face was paler than a corpse's. His last lifeline had been Zhongyang and the several hundred imperial guards under his command, yet now, surrounded by 30,000 troops of the capital camp, they were like turtles trapped in a jar. Li Guang, how dare you betray this prince? The crown prince pointed at Li Guang, Shouting in a rage, Li Guang stood up. Looking at him as if he were an idiot, this general swears allegiance to His Majesty, to the rivers and mountains of the great Jew, not to a regicidal usurper like you. You, the crown prince was rendered speechless with fury. He whipped his head around, staring at his brother-in-law Zhongyong, and roared, Zhongyong, what are you standing there for? Kill them. Kill Xiao Jingyan. As long as he is dead, this kingdom is still mine. Cold sweat streamed down Zhongyang's face. His hand gripping the blade trembling violently. Kill, with what? Outside were 30,000 elite troops, their mere hundreds, if they charged out, would not even stir a single wave. Just then, Xiao Jingyan spoke again, his voice soft yet clear enough to reach every ear in the hall. Zhongyong, this prince grants you one chance. Lay down your weapons, atone for your crimes with meritorious service, and this prince may spare your family, for the sake of your momentary confusion. Zhongyang's body jolted violently. His family, it was his final weak spot. He glanced at the mad crown prince, then at the calm and composed seventh prince, the scales in his heart tipping fiercely. Do not listen to him. The crown prince was still roaring. You are my man. We are family. Help me. And when I ascend the throne, you shall be Grand Marshal, Duke of the realm. Yet these empty promises sounded pitifully feeble at this moment. Clang! The blade slipped from Zhongyang's hand. Clattering to the ground, all strength seemed to drain from his body as he crumpled to his knees in defeat. This general confesses his crimes. His kneeling was like pushing over the first domino. Behind him, the imperial guards one by one threw down their weapons, kneeling in a sea of bodies. All was lost. The crown prince's legs buckled, and he collapsed to the ground, his face ashen with despair. He had lost utterly and completely. The crown princess let out a shrill scream and fainted on the spot. Xiao Jingyan did not spare them another glance. He strode to the dragon bed, pulled a small porcelain vial from his bosom, poured out a single black pill, and fed it into the emperor's mouth. Father, this is the antidote. The emperor swallowed the pill, and his ashen face miraculously regained a hint of color. He gasped for a few breaths, finally able to speak a complete sentence. Jingyan, my good boy, cough, it was father. Who wronged you? Xiao Jingyan's eyes reddened, his voice thick with emotion. Father speaks too harshly. Rest well, your majesty, your son shall settle everything. He stood up, his gaze sweeping the hall before finally resting on me. Miss Shin, you have been frightened. I shook my head. Your highness is too kind. If not for your timely arrival, we would have. No, he cut me off, his eyes sincere. I should be the one thanking you. If not for the messengers you sent to inform me of everything, tonight, I would have only been able to watch from my mansion, helpless as the traitors succeeded. The messengers he spoke of were naturally the little mice that had delivered our messages. I understood in an instant. This seventh prince was not only meticulous in mind, but also grateful for kindness received. I had bet correctly. 7. The crown prince's coup ended in a dramatic farce. Crown Prince Xiao Jingrui, Crown Princess Zhong, State Uncle Zhongde and all his partisans were all arrested and thrown into the imperial prison, awaiting their final judgment. Though the emperor had narrowly escaped death, the ordeal had completely broken his health, confining him to his bed to recuperate. A nation cannot be without a ruler for a single day. On the joint petition of Li Guang and all the other generals, as well as the imperial regents, the seventh Prince Xiao Jingyan, in his capacity as Prince Regent, began to handle state affairs, and the Shen family, at long last, had their injustice vindicated. Early the next morning, Wang Fuhai personally brought an imperial edict to the imperial prison, proclaiming the entire Shen family innocent and reinstating all their official positions. The moment I stepped out of the prison, sunlight spilled over me, warm and gentle. It felt like a lifetime had passed. My father, my brother, and all the clansmen of the Shen family were overcome with emotion. Tears streaming down their faces, they all turned to me, their eyes filled with gratitude, guilt, and awe. Wani, it was father who wronged you. My father patted my shoulder, his voice thick with sobs. My brother's eyes were also red as he said, "Little sister, from now on, I will believe whatever you say." I smiled and shook my head. In truth, The ones who truly deserved thanks were those insignificant little creatures, returning to the long-missed general's mansion. Everything was just as it had been, save for a thin layer of dust covering every surface. The entire household sprang into action at once, sweeping the courtyards, buying food and provisions, and the mansion was filled with life once more. In the evening, imperial rewards arrived at the mansion. Silks and satins, gold and jade treasures, were delivered in an endless stream into the general's mansion. Along with them came a separate edict, issued solely for me, by the mandate of heaven. The emperor decrees, Shunwani, daughter of a once convicted minister, possesses a heart of wisdom and virtue, and stood unafraid in the face of mortal peril, rendering great meritorious service to the state. She is hereby specially conferred the title of Princess of Guan, to enjoy the emoluments of a princess, and bestowed with a princess's mansion. Let it be known, a princess, I froze in shock. I, the daughter of a subject, had been granted the title of princess by special exception. It was an unprecedented honor in the history of the great Jew. It was Wang Fuhai once again who came to proclaim the edict. He wore a broad smile as he said to me, "Her Royal Highness the Princess, this grace was secured for you by the 7th Prince, no, by the Prince Regent, who stood firm against all objections. His Highness said you are worthy of this glory." I understood. This was Xiao Jingyan's way of repaying a kindness with a kindness. In this way, he announced to the entire court and realm that I, Shunwani, was his person. At the same time, he had given me a noble status, one that was more than enough to protect myself. I took the imperial edict, my heart a whirlwind of emotions, from a condemned prisoner on the brink of death to a revered princess. It had taken merely 2 short days. Nothing in this world was more unpredictable than fate. 8. My conferment as a princess was only the beginning of Xiao Jingyan's series of moves. In the days that followed, the capital was engulfed in a whirlwind of change. With thunderous resolve, he swiftly purged all remaining partisans of the crown prince from the court, replacing them with his own loyal men and with loyal ministers who had once been marginalized and suppressed. My father, Shun Ce, was appointed Grand Marshal of all military forces, with supreme command over the entire imperial army, his power even greater than before. My brother Shun Xiu was also promoted to commander of the imperial forest guards, responsible for the defense of the imperial city's safety. Virtually all military power in the entire capital was now firmly in the hands of the Shun family and the 7th Prince. The general's mansion, once desolate with not a single visitor, was now thronged with carriages and horses, a constant bustle of activity. Those officials who had once shunned us like the plague now clambered over each other to curry favor with the Shun family, watching their obsequious faces, so arrogant before, so servile now. I could not help but feel a bitter sense of irony. I had no patience to deal with them, and instead shut myself in my chambers to do something far more important, communicate with my animal friends. The crow that had saved our entire family became my primary contact. I named him Xiao Hei, Little Black. Through Xiao Hei and his countless crow descendants scattered across the capital, I built a one-of-a-kind intelligence network, which Lord grumbled at home, which official accepted bribes he ought not to, even which young lovers trysted in the back gardens. None of it escaped my ears. I felt as if I had been granted a god's-eye view of the world. The entire capital, in my eyes, had no more secrets, besides the crows. The mouse Xiao Hui, Little Grey, and his clan also became my most capable lieutenants. They were responsible for uncovering even more hidden secrets, such as which lord hid account books in his secret chamber, which official buried confidential letters under his bed. I sorted all this intelligence into categories. Trivial gossip I listened to as stories, and information related to state affairs and the conduct of officials I quietly passed on to Xiao Jingyan. Xiao Jingyan's reaction to the intelligence I provided evolved from surprise to familiarity, and finally to deep reliance. Several times he wanted to ask the source of my intelligence, but seeing my mysterious smile, he always swallowed the question in the end. Between wise people, words need not be spoken in full. He only needed to know that I had my secrets, and that these secrets were beneficial without harm to him, and to the great Jew, and so, We formed a strange and wonderful tacit understanding. He took charge of the outside world, maneuvering in the imperial court to clear all obstacles in his path. I took charge of the inside, standing guard in the princess's mansion as his rearguard, providing him with an endless stream of intelligence support. United in our efforts, in a mere half-month, the chaotic court situation stabilized rapidly. Xiao Jingyan's prestige soared to its peak. Everyone could see that this once unremarkable seventh prince was the true chosen one of heaven. The emperor's health deteriorated with each passing day, and finally, on a late night, he summoned all imperial regents and royal clan princes, and publicly announced his abdication edict, passing the throne to the prince regent, Xiao Jingyan. 9. Xiao Jingyan's ascension ceremony was not overly extravagant, but it was extremely solemn. As the only princess of non-royal blood, I stood at the head of the imperial clan, watching with my own eyes as he put on the dragon robe, donned the imperial crown, and stepped step by step onto that supreme throne of the realm. From this day forth, he was no longer the seventh prince, he was the new emperor of the great Jew. The cries of "Long live the emperor" shook the heavens and earth. Watching his young yet steady back, my heart was filled with endless emotion. Who could have imagined that a mere month ago, one of us was a fallen prince confined to his mansion, and the other a condemned minister's daughter on the brink of execution, and now, he was the emperor, and I was a princess. Truly, fate was the most wondrous thing in the world. After the ascension ceremony came the imperial rewards. Naturally, the Shun family was named the foremost meritorious subject of the realm. My father was conferred the title of Duke of Zhun, with the hereditary right to pass the title down through his line forever. My brother Shen Xiu was conferred the title of Marquis of Champion, and concurrently appointed commander of the Imperial Guards. As for me, Xiao Jingyan looked at me, his gaze warm and deep. Princess Guan Shenwani, wise and courageous, has the merit of restoring the state to its rightful order. I wish to form a lifelong bond with the princess, to make you my empress, mother of the entire realm. I wonder, what say you, princess? The words fell like a thunderclap, stunning everyone in the hall. All eyes turned to fix on me. My father and brother were so overcome with excitement their faces turned bright red. The daughter of a subject, elevated in a single step to become empress, what an unparalleled honor, a glory the Shen family had never known in generations. In the eyes of everyone present, I had no reason at all to refuse. I looked at the handsome man on the dragon throne, his eyes filled with anticipation and a hint of imperceptible nervousness. I knew he was sincere. Over these days, we had fought side by side, and a bond far deeper than that of ordinary allies had long since grown between us. Marrying him, becoming his empress, seemed only natural, the best possible fate for me. But, was that truly the life I wanted, living in the harem, reigning as the mother of the nation? It sounded infinitely glorious. Yet those square palace walls, what difference were they to the imperial prison? To me, I would lose my freedom once more, be drawn into endless harem intrigues, and live each day with bated breath. Most importantly, I would lose my greatest strength, my animal friends. The imperial palace was heavily guarded, bound by countless rigid rules. I could never again communicate with them as freely as I did now. My intelligence network would be rendered useless because of it. I would go from a queen who held the whole situation in her hands, back to an ordinary woman who had to rely on a man to survive. No, this was not what I wanted. When everyone thought I would kowtow in excitement to thank him for his grace, I shook my head slowly, yet firmly. 10. Your Majesty's affection is a great honor, but this subject's daughter dare not accept it. The moment the words left my mouth, the entire hall fell deathly silent. Everyone stared at me with incredulous eyes, as if I had lost my mind, refusing to be empress. Only someone whose head had been crushed by a door would make such a decision. My father and brother were so anxious they nearly jumped up, frantically gesturing at me with their eyes. The smile on Xiao Jingyan's face froze too, the light in his eyes dimming at a visible speed. Why? He asked, his voice tinged with hurt. I took a deep breath, met his gaze head-on, and spoke with neither servility nor arrogance. Your Majesty, this subject's daughter knows full well that my talents are meager and my virtues shallow. unworthy of the great responsibility of being the mother of the nation. My nature is unrestrained, and I cherish freedom. I could never adapt to the rules of the palace. If I force myself to enter the palace, it will bring no happiness to your majesty, nor to this subject's daughter. I would rather be an idle princess of the great Jew, guarding these thousands of miles of rivers and mountains for your majesty, listening to the winds and clouds of the whole world. In this way, I shall not fail your majesty's expectations, nor this extraordinary fate bestowed upon me. My words were spoken with complete candor and sincerity, listening to the winds and clouds of the whole world. Xiao Jingyan's pupils constricted. He understood my meaning in an instant. I was telling him that my value did not lie in being a confined empress in the harem, but in being his one and only eyes and ears placed upon the entire world. He fell silent. The atmosphere in the hall was so heavy it was hard to breathe. Everyone held their breath, waiting for the emperor's final judgment. Refusing the emperor's marriage proposal was a crime of offending the sovereign. If the dragon's anger was aroused, everything I had just gained could vanish into thin air. My father broke out in a cold sweat, several times wanting to speak to beg for mercy, but I stopped him with a look. This was a game of wits between Xiao Jingyan and me. It was also the crucial step for me to fight for my own future. I could not back down. For a long, long time, a smile reappeared on Xiao Jingyan's face, yet it held a hint of helplessness, a hint of relief, and a trace of doting. Very well, he sighed softly, since the princess's heart is set, I shall not force you. He paused, then raised his voice and announced to everyone, Princess Guan has rendered great meritorious service to the state, and possesses both virtue and talent. I wish to form a sworn bond of brother and sister with the princess. To see Princess Guan is to see the emperor himself. Her princess's mansion may enter and exit the palace forbidden grounds freely, without restriction. Furthermore, I promise that Princess Guan shall have the freedom to choose her own marriage. Neither I, nor the descendants of my line, shall ever force her in this matter. This edict was even more shocking than conferring me as empress, instead of making her empress. He would form a sworn sibling bond, and bestow the supreme power of to see her is to see the emperor himself, and a promise of marriage freedom. What kind of move was this? Everyone was dumbfounded. Only I understood this was Xiao Jingyan's respect and protection for me. He had given me status, given me power, and more importantly, given me what I wanted most, freedom. In this way, he was telling me that he understood me, and was willing to fulfill my wishes. A warm current surged in my heart, and my eyes grew a little moist. I bowed deeply, deeply to him. Your humble sister Shenwani thanks her imperial brother for his great grace. He looked at me and smiled. That smile was as gentle as the first time we met, yet it held something more. We both understood that from this moment on, our relationship would enter a new phase. No longer monarch and subject, no longer allies, but the closest, most trusting brother and sister in the world. 11. I did not move into the princess's mansion bestowed by the emperor. It was too big, too cold and lonely. I still loved living in the general's mansion, where my family was, where the familiar sense surrounded me. Xiao Jingyan did not object either. He only ordered the general's mansion to be renovated and expanded to a specification comparable to a prince's residence, and sent a detachment of the Imperial Forest Army to garrison it all year round. Euphemistically calling it protecting the princess's safety, I knew he was using this way to highlight my uniqueness. My life entered an unprecedented state of ease and contentment. I slept until I woke up naturally every day, read books, listened to music, or gathered my animal intelligence agents for a morning meeting. Xiao He, the crow, was responsible for reporting the movements of officials and public sentiment in the capital and its surrounding areas. Xiao Hui, the mouse, was responsible for uncovering secret transactions and conspiracies in the dark corners of the realm. I also developed new informants, the carrier pigeon Xiao Bai, Little White, and his team, responsible for delivering messages from far away, centered on the capital. My intelligence network spread like an invisible giant net, quickly covering the entire Great Zhou dynasty, where the border generals were embezzling soldiers' pay. Salt merchants in the Jiangnan region were colluding with government officials. or powerful clans in Shu were plotting rebellion, news that originally required a great deal of manpower and material resources to investigate. Now I only needed to sit at home and listen to my little darlings report with their caw-caw, squeak-squeak, coo-coo. After sorting and screening this intelligence, I sent it to Xiao Jingyan regularly through secret channels, based on my intelligence. Xiao Jingyan carried out his plans with pinpoint accuracy. Those who needed to be warned were warned, those who needed to be comforted were comforted, those who needed to be dismissed were dismissed, those who needed to be promoted were promoted. Under his governance, the atmosphere of the Great Jew Court was completely purified, government decrees were smoothly implemented, the people lived and worked in peace and contentment, and the whole realm flourished with vitality. From the court to the common people, everyone sang the praises of this young new emperor. No one knew that behind this prosperous age, there was also the merit of an animal queen. Xiao Jingyan trusted me more and more, even a little dependent. He often went on incognito visits to my general's mansion, for no other reason than to have a meal and chat with me, of course, mainly to listen to my latest gossip. Imperial brother. Minister Wang of the Ministry of Personnel seems to be a little short of money recently. I heard from the swallows on the beam of his house that his wife has secretly pawned several pieces of jewelry. Oh, Minister Wang has always been incorruptible. How could this be? His hometown suffered a great flood. He donated all his official salary and savings, and also anonymously sponsored 100 displaced orphans. He is a good official. I know now. Tomorrow, I will raise his salary. Or perhaps, Imperial brother, that new Director Jew of the Ministry of Revenue, the Skinflint, no, Minister Jew, is no good at all. I heard from the mice in his rice jar that he embezzled 3,000 taels of disaster relief silver and hid it under the bedboard in his bedroom. The light in Xiao Jingyan's eyes turned cold in an instant. Is the evidence conclusive? I nodded. Absolutely true. Xiao Hui saw it with his own eyes. Good, tomorrow, I will let the censorate go to investigate. The next day, Director Jew was raided and thrown into prison, and the people all clapped their hands in joy. Conversations like this happened almost every day. Our relationship became more and more like that of real siblings, with perfect tacit understanding, able to talk about everything, only occasionally. In the way he looked at me, I could still catch a trace of complicated adoration hidden beneath the warmth. I knew he had not completely let go, but I could only pretend not to know. Between us, we could only be brother and sister. 12 days passed by, and 3 years went by in the blink of an eye. In these 3 years, the Great Jew was peaceful and prosperous, the 4 seas were calm, Xiao Jingyan's throne became more and more stable, and my reputation as the Princess Guan grew louder and louder. Only this reputation was a little peculiar. There were several versions of rumors about me in the capital. Some said I was proficient in divination, able to know the past and the future, a fairy sent by heaven to assist the new emperor. Some said I was cruel and ruthless, controlling a mysterious assassination organization, and everyone who opposed the court would die in bizarre circumstances. More people said I was actually a sorceress, who had bewitched the emperor with her beauty and sorcery to gain my current status. I laughed off these rumors. The more outrageous their guesses, the safer my secret was. Xiao Jingyan once asked me if I wanted to come forward to clarify, but I refused. Imperial brother, let them guess. A little mystery is not a bad thing. At the very least, no one dares to provoke me easily. Xiao Jingyan smiled helplessly, and let me have my way. The only thing that troubled me a little in these 3 years was my marriage. Although Xiao Jingyan had promised me the freedom to choose my own marriage, he was not in a hurry, but my parents were. I was already 20 years old this year, which was definitely an old maid in ancient times. My mother sighed every day, and my father also dropped hints, his words all urging me to find a good family to marry as soon as possible. Wani, look at the young master of General Li's family. He is proficient in both civil and martial arts, handsome and talented, and has admired you for a long time. And the grandson of Minister Wang's family, the new top scholar in the imperial examination, with a boundless future. Every time, I evaded it with the reason that my imperial brother has not yet established an empress. How can I, as his sister, marry before him? This reason was so powerful that even my parents could not refute it. Yes, 3 years had passed, and Xiao Jingyan's harem was still empty. He had not established an empress, not even taken a single concubine. Ministers of the court were racked with anxiety over this matter, submitting memorial after memorial to admonish him, for the sake of the imperial bloodline, for the sake of the rivers and mountains, to take numerous concubines into the harem and extend the imperial lineage. Yet Xiao Jingyan turned them all away each time with the reason that, state affairs come first. Personal matters shall be set aside for the time being. I knew he was waiting for me, or rather, he was expressing his perseverance in this way. This filled my heart with gratitude, guilt, and a heavy weight of pressure. On this day, Xiao Jingyan came to my mansion again to crash a meal. After 3 rounds of wine, he suddenly looked at me and asked earnestly, "Wani, do you really intend to live like this for the rest of your life?" I knew what he was asking. I fell silent for a moment, then nodded. "I think life is perfect as it is now, free, unrestrained, doing what I love, and able to help my imperial brother and the people of the world. But you are a woman after all, you need someone who knows your joys and sorrows to care for you by your side." There was a hint of imperceptible hope in his voice. I smiled and poured him another cup of wine. "My imperial brother is that someone who knows my joys and sorrows. With you here, who dares to bully me?" I skillfully steered the conversation away. Xiao Jingyan looked at me, a flash of loss in his eyes. But it was soon replaced by a gentle smile. "You only dare to act this way because I dote on you." He picked up the wine cup and drained it in one gulp, as if trying to swallow all his worries and thoughts. Just then, a carrier pigeon, Xiao Bai, fluttered its wings and flew in, landing on my shoulder and cooing anxiously. I pricked up my ears and listened for a moment, and my face changed in an instant. 13. "What's wrong?" Xiao Jingyan noticed my strangeness. I looked at him with a solemn expression, every word heavy. "Imperial brother, something has happened at the northern border." The news Xiao Bai brought was like a bolt from the blue. The Xiongnu tribes that had occupied the northern grasslands for years had suddenly torn up the peace treaty, assembled 100,000 iron cavalry, and marched south in a large-scale invasion. They had already captured 3 border cities of the Great Jew in succession. The border generals fought to the death in resistance, but were hopelessly outnumbered, suffering heavy casualties. Urgent military reports were sent to the capital like snowflakes, yet due to the long distance, and possibly sabotage by someone in the middle, not a single one of these urgent reports had successfully arrived. If it were not for Xiao Bai and his team flying relay races, day and night, we would still be kept in the dark now. How dare they? Xiao Jingyan slammed his fist on the table. His face contorted with an anger never seen before. "You petty Xiongnu scoundrels, how dare you insult the great Jew as if we have no capable men?" He stood up at once. "I must return to the palace at once, summon all officials, and discuss the dispatch of troops." I also stood up. "I'll go with you." The situation was urgent, and Xiao Jingyan did not refuse. We rushed back to the imperial palace overnight. The bell was rung, and all officials of the 5th rank and above in the capital were urgently summoned to the Golden Luan Hall. When Xiao Jingyan announced the news of the Xiongnu invasion, the entire court erupted in an uproar. The war faction and the peace faction immediately fell into a heated argument. The peace faction argued that the national treasury had only just become full, the people had only lived a few years of peaceful life, and it was not appropriate to wage a large-scale war. They proposed sending envoys to negotiate, exchanging gold, silk and beautiful women for peace. The war faction, led by my father, angrily denounced this as cowardice and betrayal of the nation. "The peace of the great Jew is bought with the blood and lives of our soldiers, not begged for by groveling. The Xiongnu have a wolf's heart and a tiger's ambition. If we back down a step today, they will devour our entire rivers and mountains tomorrow. This war must be fought. And we must fight them hard, beat them so hard that they dare not take a single step south for 100 years. My father's words were forceful and stirring, filled with passion. Xiao Jingyan's eyes were also blazing with the will to fight. He made a decisive decision, standing firm against all objections. "What the Duke of Zhen says is exactly what I think. By my edict, appoint Duke of Zhenshan Ce as the Grand Marshal of the Northern Expedition, and Marquis of Champion Shen Xiu as the Vanguard General, assemble 200,000 troops at once and march north to resist the enemy. Your subjects obey the edict, my father and brother replied in unison, their voices like a great bell. With the expedition imminent, the entire general's mansion was filled with a tense and solemn atmosphere. Mother wiped away her tears secretly while packing luggage for father and brother. I knew she was worried. But I could not show the slightest weakness. I found my father, who was polishing his sword, and said to him, "Father, take care in everything on this trip to the northern border." Father laughed heartily, his spirit unyielding. "Don't worry, Wani, this old bone of mine can still fight for another 10 years. A mere bunch of Xiongnu are not worth fearing." I then found my brother, who was putting on his armor. "Brother, on the battlefield, swords and blades have no eyes. You must protect yourself, and protect father too." Brother patted his chest, his face full of confidence. "Don't worry, sister, I'll beat those Xiongnu so hard they piss their pants. Let them know the power of the Shen family's spear technique." Watching their high-spirited looks, I felt a little relieved, yet for some reason, an inexplicable unease lingered in my heart. I sent Xiao He and his elite 100 crows, as well as Xiao Bai and all his carrier pigeons, to follow the army, ordering them to report the frontline battle situation to me at any time. I needed to ensure that everything was absolutely safe. 14. On the day the army set off, the entire capital was empty of people, all flocking to the streets to see them off. Xiao Jingyan personally led all officials to bid farewell to my father and brother. Watching them, clad in heavy armor, riding tall stallions, leading the mighty army away, my heart also flew to the distant northern border. In the days that followed, I lived almost entirely on the news sent back by Xiao He and Xiao Bai. The army has crossed the Yellow River, morale is high, encountered a small group of Xiongnu roving cavalry. The vanguard achieved a great victory, beheading 300 enemies. The army has arrived at Yangmen Pass, joining forces with the garrison troops. Most of the news from the front was good, as expected of a god of war. Father commanded with calmness and deployed his troops with wisdom. Brother was also extremely brave, charging into battle at the head of his men, winning meritorious service time and again. The great Zhu army won victory after victory, quickly recapturing the 3 cities previously occupied, and even pushing the front line back into the grasslands. Joy erupted in the capital, and everyone was immersed in the delight of victory. Xiao Jingyan was also overjoyed, publicly praising the Shen family for being loyal for generations in the court several times. Only I felt the unease in my heart growing stronger and stronger, because Xiao He told me that things were not that simple. "Girl, I have a bad feeling about this. Although the Xiongnu have been repelled, their main force has never appeared. Moreover, their retreat was too orderly. It doesn't look like a rout at all, but rather a feigned defeat to lure our army deep into their territory. Lure the enemy deep." These 4 words hit me like a bucket of cold water. I immediately told Xiao Jingyan of this guess. After hearing it, Xiao Jingyan's face also turned solemn. "You mean this is a trap?" I nodded. "It's highly possible. The Xiongnu Chanyu is a cunning fox. He would never be defeated so easily." Xiao Jingyan paced back and forth in the hall, his brows tightly furrowed. "But all the battle reports from the front are of victories. General Shen and Marquis Shen are both seasoned veterans. They should have seen through this. We have to prepare for the worst, even if the best is expected." I cut him off. "Imperial brother, we must send someone to warn father and brother at once. Tell them to be on high alert, and never advance rashly." "Good, send a warning." Xiao Jingyan made a decisive decision. "I'll send an 800-li urgent messenger at once to deliver my oral edict." Yet it was already too late, just as we were discussing. A blood-soaked carrier pigeon struggled to fly into my room and collapsed at my feet with a thud. It was a member of Xiao Bai's team. A thin bamboo tube was tied to its leg. My hands trembling, I took off the bamboo tube and unfolded the note inside. There were only a few words written in blood on it. "Marshal ambushed, Langjushu Mountain. Send help at once." My mind went blank with a buzzing sound. 15. Langjushu Mountain. It was the place where father once defeated the Xiongnu in a great battle. performing the ritual of Feng Lang Ju Shu, sealing the mountain to proclaim victory. It was also the pinnacle of his life's glory. The Xiongnu had actually set their trap there. They not only wanted to defeat father, but also to humiliate him in this way, to shatter his myth. Wani, what's wrong with you? Xiao Jingyan's voice pulled me back from my shock. I handed him the blood-stained note, my voice trembling. Father has been ambushed. After reading the note, Xiao Jingyan's face turned deathly pale in an instant. How could this happen? How could this happen? He knew that Duke of Zhenshan Ce and the 200,000 troops were the foundation of the Great Zhu. If something happened to them, the Great Zhu would be severely weakened, its national foundation shaken. Imperial brother, now is not the time to assign blame. I forced myself to calm down. We must send troops to rescue them at once. Right, rescue them. Xiao Jingyan also came to his senses. But all the troops around the capital have already been dispatched. To mobilize troops temporarily now is like trying to quench a thirst with water from a faraway river. It's too late. Yes, the troops of the capital camp had gone to the northern border with father, and mobilizing garrison troops from other places would take time. By the time they reached Langjushu Mountain, it would be too late to save anyone. What to do? What on earth to do? I was burning with anxiety, pacing back and forth in the room. Suddenly, I stopped in my tracks. I thought of an army that had been forgotten. Imperial brother. I looked at Xiao Jingyan, hope rekindling in my eyes. Do you remember the Shishan camp? Shishan camp. Xiao Jingyan was stunned. It was an army left over from the previous dynasty. Because of its complex composition and questionable loyalty, it had been left idle in the western suburbs of the capital. Responsible for guarding the imperial mausoleums, almost completely forgotten by everyone. You want to use them? Xiao Jingyan frowned. Can they do it? They're just a bunch of old, weak, sick and disabled soldiers, a motley crew. They are not a motley crew, I said firmly. They are just bright pearls buried in the dust. Their commander is called Zhao Polu. He was once a fierce tiger general under father's command, and was exiled to guard the imperial mausoleums only because he offended the crown prince's faction. As long as we give him a chance, give him our trust, he will definitely train them into a fierce and invincible army. This intelligence, of course, was not hearsay from me. It was told to me by the old yellow dog guarding the gate of my mansion. In his youth, the old yellow dog was a military dog, who had fought on the battlefield with Zhao Polu, and admired his abilities immensely. Xiao Jingyan looked into my determined eyes, his face filled with hesitation. I knew what he was worried about. Using such an army of uncertain loyalty was a desperate gamble. If we won, all would be well. If we lost, we would be doomed forever. Imperial brother, I grabbed his arm and pleaded, right now, we have no other choice. Please trust me, and trust General Zhao. This is our only hope. Xiao Jingyan looked at me, then at the pitch-black night outside the window. Finally, he gritted his teeth and made up his mind. Very well, I will take this gamble. He immediately wrote an imperial edict and a tiger tally of military power, handing them to me. Wani, you go to Shishan camp in person. I will remain in the palace, raising grain and forage for you, and holding the rear steady. Good. I took the edict and the tiger tally without the slightest hesitation, and turned to leave at once. In the night, I changed into a close-fitting warrior's robe, mounted the fastest horse, and with a few personal guards, galloped away toward the western hills, leaving a trail of dust in my wake. Father, brother, you must hold on, wait for me. 16. Shishan camp was less a military barracks and more a massive slum. The barracks were dilapidated, the armor and weapons rusted, and the soldiers were gaunt and sallow, their eyes lacking the slightest spark of a true soldier. They looked more like beggars on the street. When I revealed my identity as a princess and presented the imperial edict, saying I would lead them north to rescue the army, everyone wore expressions of sarcasm and disdain. Your Royal Highness, are you joking? With us, we can't even fill our bellies. How can we have the strength to fight a war? Yeah, we're fine guarding tombs, but going to the battlefield is just walking to our deaths. Their reaction was exactly what I expected. I did not anger, only stared at them coldly. Then my gaze fell on a burly middle-aged man standing at the back of the crowd. his face covered in thick whiskers, his eyes as still as a stagnant pond. This was Zhao Polu. I dismounted and walked straight to him. "General Zhao, do you still recognize this?" From my bosom, I took out a broken half of a tiger-headed tally. At the sight of the tally, a sharp light suddenly flashed in Zhao Polu's stagnant eyes. He snatched the tally in one hand and joined it with the other half he had cherished in his own bosom, a perfect fit. This was a token forged years ago, when my father and he fought side by side. To see this tally was to see Shen Si himself. "Marshal, Marshal," Zhao Polu's voice trembled. "My father has been ambushed, trapped at Langjushu Mountain, his life hanging in the balance." I spoke concisely and to the point. Zhao Polu's body jolted violently, his tiger-like eyes turning blood-red in an instant. "General," several equally down-and-out veteran soldiers gathered around him, all filled with righteous indignation. They were all old subordinates who had fought countless battles with my father and Zhao Polu in the south and north, only to end up like this for backing the wrong side in the court's power struggles. "You petty Xiongnu scoundrels, you've gone too far." Zhao Polu clenched his fists so tightly his knuckles cracked. He whirled around, facing the slovenly soldiers, and let out a roar that shook the heavens. "Listen to me, all of you. Have you forgotten that you were once iron-blooded men, that your fathers and brothers once shed their blood on the battlefield to defend our home and country? Now, the Xiongnu have marched to our doorstep. The Duke of Zhen and 200,000 brothers are bleeding for us on the front lines. Do you intend to cower here for the rest of your lives, living as worthless tomb guards? Is your blood still hot?" His words thundered like a landslide, striking every man present and making them bow their heads, their faces flushing with shame. Zhao Polu stepped onto a high platform in the center of the camp, raised his arm, and shouted, "I, Zhao Polu, swear today to fight once more for the Duke of Zhen, for the great Jew. Those who are willing to follow me to the battlefield, those who are true men, stand forward." Silence, a brief moment of silence. Then, a young soldier threw down his hoe first and stepped forward to the platform. "General, I'm with you." "Me too, count me in." 1, 2, 10, 100. More and more men stepped forward, the numbness and decadence in their eyes replaced by something called bloodlust and valor. Soon, all 5,000 soldiers in the camp stood forward without a single exception. Though their clothes were tattered and worn, they stood tall and straight at this moment, like unsheathed swords, sharp and ready to strike. Watching this scene before me, my eyes grew moist with tears. I knew I had gambled correctly. 17. Speed is the soul of war. With Xiao Jingyan sparing no cost to supply grain, forage, and equipment, the forgotten army of Shishan camp completed its reorganization at an astonishing speed. They donned new armor, grasped new blades, and under Zhao Polu's leadership, transformed into a true fighting force. 3 days later, we set off. 5,000 cavalry, each with 2 horses, galloped day and night straight for the northern border. Along the way, I constantly received the latest intelligence on Langjushu Mountain through Xiao He and his Crow network. The situation was even worse than I had imagined. My father's 200,000 troops were tightly besieged in a valley at Langjushu Mountain by 300,000 elite Xiongnu main forces. The Xiongnu had cut off their water and supply routes, intending to starve and trap them to death. My father had organized several breakout attempts, all of which failed with heavy casualties. My brother Shen Xiu, in order to cover my father's retreat, had been seriously wounded and remained unconscious to this day. Every bad news I heard sank my heart a little deeper, but I could not fall apart. I was the backbone of this army. If I panicked, the morale would shatter. I forced down my grief and anxiety, constantly providing Zhao Polu with intelligence on the Xiongnu's troop deployments, patrol routes, and weak points. Based on my intelligence, Zhao Polu formulated a bold and risky plan: a night attack on the Xiongnu Chanyu's royal tent. To catch the thief, first catch the ringleader. If we could kill or capture the Xiongnu Chanyu, the Xiongnu army would inevitably fall into chaos, and the siege on my father would lift by itself. It was a mad plan. Using 5,000 men to charge the heart of a 300,000 strong army, it was tantamount to throwing an egg against a rock. But for the moment, it was the only way. The operation was set for the third night. That night, the wind howled, dark clouds blotted out the moon. It was the perfect night for killing. Our 5,000 cavalry, with horse hooves wrapped and mouths gagged to muffle all sound, sneaked silently to the outskirts of the Xiongnu camp. Girl. The Chanyu's royal tent is right in the center, marked by 2 wolf-headed flagpoles at the entrance. He's drinking with several tribal chiefs tonight, and the guards are 30% more lax than usual. Xiao Hei's intelligence arrived just in time. I relayed it to Zhao Polu at once. Zhao Polu nodded and drew his broadsword. Brothers, his voice was low, yet full of power, we train for 1,000 days to fight for one moment, to serve our country. Tonight is the night. With me, charge. At his order, the 5,000 cavalry shot forward like a black sharp arrow, straight into the brightly lit Xiongnu camp. Shouts of killing tore through the silence of the grassland in an instant. 18. It was a one-sided slaughter. The Xiongnu, drunk and lost in the joy of their victory, never imagined that a divine army would descend from the heavens. Zhao Polu and his so-called old, weak, sick and disabled soldiers erupted with astonishing combat power at this moment. They pounced like tigers that had starved for 3 days and nights, charging into a flock of sheep. A flash of the blade, and a head rolled to the ground, a thrust of the spear, and blood and flesh flew everywhere. We met almost no decent resistance, cutting a path all the way to the center of the camp. The 2 wolf-headed flagpoles were within arm's reach. Kill, capture the Chanyu alive. Zhao Polu led the charge, his broadsword waving, invincible in his path. The Xiongnu Chanyu and the tribal chiefs in the royal tent were stunned by the sudden attack, rushing out disheveled. At the sight of the hellish scene before them, their souls nearly fled their bodies. Protect the Chanyu, protect the Chanyu. The Chanyu's personal guards finally reacted, fighting to the death to defend him, but their numbers were too few, and they could not stop our blood-mad warriors. I did not join the fray. My task was to protect myself and, at the same time, guide them to victory. Left, archers on the left, behind. A troop of cavalry is circling around from behind. The Chanyu is trying to escape east. Don't let him get away. Under my God's eye view command. Zhao Polu's army moved as if an extension of his own arm, dismantling every enemy resistance with pinpoint precision, and tightening the encirclement smaller and smaller. Finally, Zhao Polu cut down the last personal guard with a single blow, his broadsword pointing at the trembling Xiongnu Chanyu. Kneel. The Xiongnu Chanyu's legs buckled, and he fell to his knees with a thud. We had succeeded. Zhao Polu lifted the Xiongnu Chanyu's crown with the tip of his sword, and let out a long roar to the sky, his voice shaking the 4 wilds. Our 5,000 soldiers cheered in unison with him. The cheer spread across the entire grassland, and reached the Langjushu Valley not far away. In the valley, the soldiers of the Shen family army, besieged for days and driven to despair, heard the familiar victory cry of the great Jew, and all froze in shock. Then, they witnessed an unimaginable sight. The Xiongnu camp surrounding them was engulfed in flames. Descending into utter chaos, countless Xiongnu soldiers threw away their armor and weapons, fleeing in all directions. They were saved. 19. When Zhao Polu led the bound Xiongnu Chanyu before my father could hardly believe his own eyes. Polu, is it really you? Marshal. Zhao Polu knelt on one knee, his tiger-like eyes filled with tears. Your humble general has come late to rescue you. My father helped him up, clapping him hard on the shoulder, too overcome with emotion to speak. As for me, I rushed straight to the medical tent for the wounded at the first chance. My brother Shen Xiu lay on a stretcher, his face as pale as paper, his chest armor soaked with congealed black blood, still unconscious. Brother, I threw myself beside him. Tears pouring down my face in an instant. The military doctor shook his head, his face filled with grief. Your Royal Highness, the Marquis, his wounds are too severe, he has lost too much blood. I'm afraid he won't hold on much longer. No, I could not let him die. A sudden thought struck me, and I pulled a small porcelain vial from my bosom. This was a gift Xiao Jingyan had pressed into my hand before I left, a secret imperial elixir for saving lives. Said to raise the dead and heal the gravest of wounds. I had paid it little mind then, never imagining it would save a life now. My hands trembled as I fed the pill into my brother's mouth. Everyone watched with bated breath. A miracle happened. My brother's faint breathing gradually steadied. A hint of color returned to his pale face. Water, water. He let out a weak whisper. He was alive. Tears of joy streamed down my face as I clutched his hand tightly. A great victory at the northern border. Grand Marshal Shen Ce of the Northern Expedition ambushed the main Xiongnu force at Langjushu Mountain, defeating them in one fell swoop and capturing the Xiongnu Chanyu alive. When the news spread back to the capital, the entire nation rejoiced. No one knew the heart-stopping thrills behind this glorious achievement. No one knew that the true saviors who turned the tide were me, a reclusive princess, and that forgotten army of Shishan camp, upon receiving my victory report. Xiao Jingyan was so excited he paced back and forth 3 times in his imperial study. He immediately issued an edict, conferring the title of Valiant Grand Marshal on Zhao Polu, who would take over from my father to guard the northern border. Each of the 5,000 soldiers of Shishan camp was rewarded, and all were incorporated into the newly formed Divine Strategy Army, becoming the Emperor's personal guard. As for me, I returned to the capital with the triumphant army. On the day of my return, Xiao Jingyan personally went 30 li outside the city to meet me. He was not wearing the dragon robe, only plain clothes, riding a horse, waiting quietly outside the long pavilion. When he saw me, he dismounted and strode toward me. 1,000 words condensed into a single sentence. "It's good that you're back." In his eyes were joy, heartache, and that irrepressible, deep love. Our gazes met, and I suddenly felt a certain hard corner of my heart seem to melt. 20. After returning to the capital, I became the most sought-after figure in the entire Great Ju. The heroic tale of Princess Guan, wise and courageous, leading 5,000 elite troops to launch a night attack on the royal tent, capturing the Chanyu alive and turning the tide of the war, was adapted into storytelling scripts and spread across every street and alley. My prestige even surpassed Emperor Xiao Jingyan for a time. The threshold of the general's mansion was nearly worn thin by matchmakers coming to propose marriage. Nobles, princes, young talents all wanted to marry this legendary princess. My parents were over the moon, bringing me a pile of portraits to choose from every day. Tired of the endless pestering, I simply took refuge in the palace. Xiao Jingyan specially tidied up an exquisite palace next to his sleeping quarters for me, naming it Wanqing Palace, where I could live whenever I wanted. One day, I was teasing a white Persian cat tribute from the western regions in Wanqing Palace when Xiao Jingyan walked in after finishing state affairs. He dismissed all attendants, sat down beside me, and looked at me, hesitant to speak. "Imperial brother, just say what you want to say." I stroked the cat. Not lifting my head, Xiao Jingyan fell silent for a moment, then suddenly asked, "Wani, the 3-year agreement is almost up." I froze. "What 3-year agreement?" Oh, I remembered. It was the agreement made years ago when the old ministers urged him to establish an empress. He had put them off with state affairs come first, and in the end, both sides compromised and set a 3-year deadline. They agreed that if the nation was peaceful and prosperous within 3 years, the emperor must consider establishing an empress and taking concubines. Now, 3 years had passed, and the Great Ju was thriving under his governance. It was time to keep the promise. My heart sank inexplicably. "So, Imperial brother plans to hold a selection for palace ladies to fill the harem?" I asked, feigning nonchalance. Xiao Jingyan shook his head. He suddenly grabbed my hand, his eyes burning as he looked at me, his voice filled with emotions suppressed for years. "Wani, my empress's throne has always been reserved for you. 3 years ago, you said you cherished freedom and refused to be bound by the palace walls. I promised you, and set you free, these 3 years. I've watched you shine brightly, watched you become a legend of the Great Ju. I'm proud of you, truly proud, but at the same time, I've been afraid. I'm afraid you'll fly too high, too far, so far that I can never catch you again. During your trip to the northern border, I could not sleep day or night. I was afraid something would happen to you, afraid I would never see you again. At that moment, I finally understood nothing, not the rivers and mountains, not the title of a great emperor through the ages, is more important than your safety. Wani, come back. Come back to my side, be my empress, I promise you, within these palace walls, you can still be yourself, you don't have to follow the rules, you can do as you please, you can continue to be your animal queen, listening to your world, all I ask is to see you every day, that's enough for me. His words were like a boulder thrown into the calm lake of my heart. Stirring up thousands of waves, I looked into his eyes, filled with deep, almost overflowing love and entreaty, and my heart was in turmoil. Should I agree to him? 21. I never thought I would waver in my life creed for a man, but Xiao Jingyan was different. He did not see me as just a woman, a vassal, he saw me as an independent, equal partner. He respected my ideals, fulfilled my desire for freedom, and was even willing to change the age-old rules of the harem for me. A man like this was hard to find in the whole world. I looked at his nervous and expectant face, that once warm and jade-like face now etched with a trace of vicissitudes from years of toiling over state affairs. My heart softened completely. Maybe, marrying him was not a bad choice. Just as I was about to nod, a butterfly fluttered its wings and flew in through the window. Landing on my fingertip, it was no ordinary butterfly. On its wings were special patterns painted with pollen. This was the highest level messenger I had developed, specially used to deliver the most urgent and top-secret intelligence. Its appearance meant something terrible had happened. A chill ran through my heart, and I pricked up my ears to listen to the secret words from the flutter of its wings. The next second, my face turned as white as paper. What's wrong? Xiao Jingyan noticed my strangeness. I looked up at him, my eyes filled with terror and disbelief. Imperial brother, something is wrong in the southern border. The message from the butterfly was only one thing. Deep in the 10,000 great mountains of the southern border, a never-before-seen poison called the heart-eroding GU was spreading. Those infected by the GU would have a complete change of heart, driven mad, turning against their own flesh and blood, and killing each other. And this GU poison was spreading at an extremely fast pace. What was even more terrifying was that the butterfly told me it had smelled a familiar scent on the GU king of the southern border. It was the scent of Qianji Yin, the poison the former crown prince used to murder the late emperor. Hadn't the former crown prince already been executed? Could it be he was still alive, or was there a bigger hand behind him? 22. The matter of the GU poison in the southern border was no trivial matter. Once it spread, the consequences would be unthinkable. Xiao Jingyan immediately summoned his trusted ministers to secretly discuss countermeasures. Yet everyone was at a loss. GU poison was an overly mysterious and evil thing to the people of the Central Plains. The imperial physicians of the Imperial Medical Academy searched through all ancient books and records, but could not find any mention of the heart-eroding GU. Send troops to suppress it, faced with these insane, maddened common people. The soldiers could not bring themselves to strike. Moreover, if the soldiers were also infected with the GU poison, the consequences would be even more disastrous. For a time, the entire court was shrouded in a cloud of gloom and despair. Just when everyone was at their wits' end, I stood up. Imperial brother, let me go. Everyone stared at me in shock. Nonsense. My father was the first to object. Wani, that's the southern border, it's GU poison. This is no child's play. My brother was also anxious. Sister, have you lost your mind? How can you, a young woman, go to such a place? Xiao Jingyan's face also darkened. Wani, I forbid it. I looked at them, my eyes unusually firm. I'm not talking nonsense. The problem you can't solve. Maybe I can. I paused, then revealed my trump card. Because I can communicate with them. I pointed out the window, at the eaves, at the ground. The birds will be my eyes, telling me where the source of the GU poison is. The insects and snakes will be my guides, leading me through the mist of the 10,000 great mountains. All living things in the world will be my allies, helping me find a way to detoxify the poison. This is my gift, and also my mission. Besides me, no one can complete this task. I finally revealed my biggest secret to them. Silence fell over the hall. Everyone stared at me as if I were a monster. Communicate with all living things. Was this a power that mortals could possess? Was this sorcery? My father and brother were stunned, their mouths open, unable to speak. Xiao Jingyan stared at me intently. his eyes flashing with shock, realization, struggle, and finally, all turned into deep helplessness and trust. He had long guessed it, hadn't he? He had just been waiting for me to tell him in person. Very well, he spoke, his voice hoarse. I approve it, Your Majesty. Think twice. The ministers all knelt down to dissuade him. My decision is final. Xiao Jingyan waved his hand. His tone brooking no argument. Princess Guan, you shall act on my behalf to inspect the southern border. You shall have full authority to handle all military and political affairs in the southern border. Furthermore, I order Marquis of Champion Shen Xiu to lead 10,000 soldiers of the Divine Strategy Army to accompany and protect you. He looked at me, his gaze sorrowful yet firm. Wani, I will wait for you in the capital, for your return. 23. The road to the southern border was far more difficult than the one to the northern border. Here, the mountains were high and the forests dense, poisonous insects abounded, and miasma filled the air. But I was in my element. With the help of all my animal friends, we easily avoided all dangers and smoothly arrived at Jincheng, a key border town in the southern border. Jincheng had become a dead city. Most of the people in the city were infected with the heart-eroding GU, wandering the streets, attacking each other like walking corpses. The Divine Strategy Army led by my brother Shen Xiu surrounded the entire city to prevent the further spread of the GU poison. Watching this hellish scene in the city, my heart ached sharply. I sent countless birds and insects into the city to investigate. Soon, the intelligence was gathered and brought to me. The source of the heart-eroding GU was the altar in the center of the city. There, a mysterious man in a black robe was presiding over some kind of evil ritual, and beside him stood someone I never expected, the former crown prince, Xiao Jingrui, who should have died 3 years ago. He was really alive. Moreover, it seemed he had defected to the mysterious man in black. I told my brother the news. My brother flew into a rage. This traitor, how dare he come out and do evil again? Sister, I'll lead the troops in right now and tear him to pieces. Don't be impulsive. I stopped him. That man in black is the key. He can control GU poison. He is by no means an ordinary man. A reckless charge will only lead to unnecessary casualties. Then what do we do? Just stand by and watch them do whatever they want? My brother urged anxiously. I narrowed my eyes, staring at the tall altar in the distance, and smiled coldly. He has GU poison, and I have an army of beasts. Let's see whose methods are more ingenious. That night, I summoned all the venomous snakes, scorpions, centipedes. Within 100 li radius, thousands upon thousands of poisonous creatures converged into a black torrent, surging silently toward Jincheng. 24. Inside Jincheng, on the altar, watching the growing number of GU-infected people in the city, the man in black let out a triumphant laugh. See, Your Highness, soon, the entire Great Jew will be ours. Xiao Jingyan's throne will finally return to your hands. Xiao Jingrui also broke into a mad, distorted smile. What the National Master says is true. When I recapture the throne, I will definitely confer on you the title of National Protector Mage, and we will rule the world together. Yet their joy was short-lived. National Master, it's a disaster. A subordinate stumbled up the altar. The city is overrun, with a snake tide. What? The man in black froze. He looked down, and saw a dense black mass of snakes surging toward them from all directions. The once mad GU-infected people, encountering the snake tide, seemed to have met their nemesis, screaming and falling to the ground, twitching uncontrollably. How is this possible? The man in black's face changed drastically. His heart-eroding GU was useless against these snakes. No, that's not it. It's not useless. Their venom is far more potent than his GU poison. They are devouring his GU worms. It's a beast tamer. The man in black screamed in terror. A legendary beast tamer. Hurry, retreat at once. It was too late for him to run. The snake tide had already engulfed the entire altar. Countless venomous snakes coiled around his body, bearing their deadly fangs. Aya! A shrill scream pierced the night sky. As for the former crown prince Xiao Jingrui, he was so scared that he wet himself, collapsing on the ground, unable to stand. When my brother and I led the troops into the city, this was the sight that greeted us. The The man in black had been gnawed beyond recognition by the snakes, and Xiao Jingrui, surrounded by a horde of mice, was so terrified that he lost control of his bowels. When he saw me, he acted as if he had seen a savior, stumbling toward me. "Sister Wani, save me, save me. I dare not do it again," looking at his ugly state. I felt nothing but disgust. "Take him away." I spat out the two words coldly. The dust settled. Under my command, countless beneficial insects and birds flew into the city, eliminating all traces of the heart-eroding Gu. I also gathered medicinal herbs from the mountains, brewed an antidote, and distributed it to the people of the city. A few days later, Jincheng regained its former vitality. The crisis in the southern border was resolved. 25. I escorted Xiao Jingrui back to the capital as a prisoner. With the triumphant army, the capital was still as prosperous as ever. Xiao Jingyan led all civil and military officials to hold the grandest welcome ceremony for me at the city gate. He looked at me, said nothing, just stepped forward and pulled me into a tight embrace, in front of everyone. This time, I did not push him away. Leaning against his chest, feeling his strong heartbeat, I suddenly felt an unprecedented sense of peace. It turns out that after wandering for a long time, one really yearns for a harbor. The former crown prince Xiao Jingrui, for plotting a rebellion, colluding with evil cultists in the southern border, and spreading Gu poison, committed heinous crimes and was sentenced to death by Ling Kai. Thus, all the storms finally subsided. A month later, news spread from the palace. His Majesty the Emperor was to hold a grand wedding. There was no suspense about who the Empress would be, Princess Guan, Shenwani, on the day of the wedding. I wore an elaborate phoenix crown and red wedding robes, sitting on the marriage bed, listening to the noise outside. Yet my heart was calm. I thought I would be nervous, resistant, but I was not. Perhaps this is the best ending. The red candles flickered, and the red hijab was lifted. Xiao Jingyan, dressed in a bright red wedding robe, stood in front of me, his handsome face filled with unfading tenderness and joy. "Wani," he took my hand, placed a gentle kiss on it. "From today on, you are my empress." I looked at him and smiled. "Your Majesty, from today on, you are also my husband." We smiled at each other, and all words were unnecessary. I became the most unusual empress in the history of the Great Jew. I did not live in the Cunning Palace, still residing in my Wanqing Palace. I did not need to pay my respects to the Empress Dowager, because the Empress Dowager was my mother. I did not have to manage the harem, because I was the only one in the harem. My greatest joy every day was still chatting with my animal friends, listening to them report on the affairs of the world, and Xiao Jingyan, after finishing state affairs every day, would come to my Wanqing Palace, read memorials while listening to my gossip. "My lady, what new things have happened today?" The king of the western regions seems to have taken a fancy to the queen of a neighboring country and plans to send troops to abduct her as his wife. Oh. Then I must send an envoy to mediate at once, to prevent them from fighting and affecting the great Jew's silk trade. Also, the Dragon King of the East China Sea, no, the Pirate King, is marrying his daughter soon and has sent out invitations far and wide. I heard her dowry includes 10 large ships of jewels. Is that so? Then I must prepare a generous gift. By the way, see if we can incorporate their shipping routes into the great Jew's trade system. Watching him listen to the gossip and handle state affairs with quick wit and insight, I could not help but smile. Perhaps this is the best form of love, not one person clinging to the other, but two people standing side by side, looking in the same direction, tending to these thousands of miles of rivers and mountains, making it better and better. As for me, I am the Empress of the Great Jew, and also the one and only animal queen of this world. My legend has only just begun.